Today we continue to listen Silavanta Sutta according to the answers given by the Venerable Sariputra. In this sutta, the virtuous meditators should practice vipassana meditation to see the five aggregates of clinging, upadana khanda, as impermanent, as suffering, as non-self, anicca, dukkha, anatta, etc. But actually, seeing these three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanent, suffering, and non-self, is not so easy, as there are certain barriers that conceal them. The Visuddhimagga, the path of purification, identifies the barriers concealing them and explain how that concealment can be broken. According to the Visuddhimagga, nature impermanence is concealed by continuity. The notion of continuity exists because people do not give attention to rise and fall. So there are two factors here: continuity, santati in Pali, and failure to see the rise and fall of the aggregates of mind and matter. What is continuity? Actually, there is no continuity. It does not exist. It is only a notion, the notion that things are continuous. And this notion conceals the characteristics of impermanence. Do you think your body today is one continuous process from the body yesterday? Or that you have the same body that you had yesterday? Or is it a different body? At every moment, our material particles are arising and disappearing quickly, but we do not see them. Only when we practice vipassana meditation seriously can we see them. When you see the material particles arising and disappearing, one material particles arising and disappearing, followed by another material properties and so on, only then will you be able to get rid of the notions of continuity, sanctity. Then you will realize that there is no continuous phenomenon going on, but actually small parts arising and disappearing, one after another. And also it is the same with the mind. You think that you have the same mind that you had 10 years ago, last month, or yesterday. But through your practice of vipassana, you will find that mind is new at every moment. In one moment there is one mind or one consciousness, then it disappears and is followed by another type of consciousness, which disappear and is followed by another type of consciousness and so on. When you can see them as separate moments falling one after another, you are able to break the notions of continuity. Once it is broken, you have no sense of continuity, and the characteristics of impermanence becomes clear to you. Let us take the sheet of paper as an example. Do you think that we use pen and ink on this paper because it is solid? We use it to write on and wrap things up, so we assume that it is solid. We all think that way, but if you look at that sheet of paper under a powerful microscope, you see that it is an object that has more empty space than solid material. So which is the truth, a solid sheet of paper or something full of empty space? So you put the paper under the powerful microscope that can magnify about 2,000 times, and you find that your notion is wrong. Now you see that it is really something with a lot of empty space. So we needed a powerful microscope in order to see the truth about this piece of paper. It is no longer a smooth, continuous sheet of paper. It is a thing full of holes. You may also think of the combinations of our mind and matter, the five aggregates, as being one whole continuous thing. Here, no microscope can help. But in practicing vipassana meditation continuously and thoroughly, you will be able to see your mind and matter as separate entities arising and disappearing. You see them arise and disappear at every moment. You are able to break the notions of continuity. Vipassana knowledge is a powerful microscope you use to discover the characteristics of impermanence. Just as a powerful microscope is needed to see the truth of a material sheet of paper, we need vipassana knowledge in order to understand the truth of your mind and matter, the five aggregates, and to see their impermanent nature. And the sub-commentary said that a person who correctly sees rise and fall does not see phenomena manifest in a connected state, but rather in a state of disconnectedness, like iron darts. You may have seen iron spikes. They are like iron darts, and they are separate one from another. To a person who practices vipassana and can see the rise and fall of the aggregates, the mental and physical states no longer appear as connected, but are separate and unconnected. Once you see this disconnectedness of things, see that they are not continuous, but are composed of many separate parts, you come to understand that these constantly rising and falling things are impermanent. But as long as you think that they are continuous, it is impossible to see their impermanent nature. The notion of continuity must be removed if you are to see impermanence and know it to be the characteristics of the aggregates. To get rid of the notions of continuity, you need to watch phenomena, you need to watch things closely, precisely. You need to see that the aggregates arise and disappear. Once the arising and disappearance of the aggregates are seen, you will be able to rid yourself of the notions of continuity. When this notion is broken, the nature of impermanence manifests itself clearly to you. Then we should see the five aggregates of clinging as suffering. Vinchupadanekanda, Dukhato, Yoniso Manasi Kadaba. According to the Visuddhimagga, the characteristic of suffering does not become apparent because when continuous oppression is not given attention, it is concealed by one's posture. As you know, if you sit for some time, you eventually will have pain somewhere. Under normal condition, when you are not meditating, as soon as there is pain, you will change your postures unmindfully and find a postures more comfortable, but pain eventually comes to that postures also. So you shift into another postures until pain appears there also. The attempt to avoid pain goes on and on. So pain is temporarily removed by the next postures you adopt, which seem to conceal the nature of suffering. Because we keep changing postures, we do not realize that our body is always suffering. We do not sit down long enough to notice that the pain or numbness in the body is constant. We do that only when we sit down and make notes when practicing meditation. So the changing of postures conceal the dukkha nature of the physical body. So look at your paper, page number 5, number 20. Can you follow me? The characteristics of suffering does not become apparent. The characteristics of suffering does not become apparent because when continuous oppression is not given attention. When continuous oppression is not given attention, it is concealed by one's purchase. It is concealed by one's purchase. So as meditators, after sitting for an hour without changing poses, you are sure to be suffering pain somewhere. So you know how much suffering there is. When the Visuddhimagga says pain is concealed by poses, it means that it is concealed by the poses taken to remove the pain or suffering of the previous poses. And it continues. When the poses are exposed by attention to continuous oppression, the characteristics of pain become apparent in its true nature. So meditator have to be very careful when there is pleasant or unpleasant sensation. You have to change every poses very mindfully. So when the poses are exposed by attention to continuous oppression, the characteristics of pain become apparent in its true nature. Here you see arising and disappearing. First you understand impermanence, then dwelling on arising and disappearing, arising and disappearing, you find that arising and disappearing is a constant oppression. When your attention is placed on this constant oppression caused by arising and disappearing, the poses can no longer conceal the true nature of suffering, so suffering becomes evident. So when you change to a more comfortable poses, you know that your pain will be gone temporarily, and that if you do not change the poses again, you will suffer. In this way, you know that the pain in any poses is shifted by substituting another poses. But if you do not substitute another poses, the nature of suffering is revealed. So when you do not change poses, but continue sitting in meditation, you will see the suffering nature of things, the constant oppression caused by arising and disappearing. The dukkha, the suffering that is being concealed by poses, applies to the physical body only. But what about mind? What about mental states? It is not enough just to see dukkha nature in the physical body. It is important that you see dukkha in the mental state also. Here, poses cannot conceal dukkha because poses have nothing to do with mental state. So with regard to mental state, the failure to see mind and matter to arise and disappear is that which conceals the dukkha nature. The nature of dukkha, the nature of suffering is constant oppression by arising and disappearing. Only when you see arising and disappearing, when you see the dukkha nature, if you do not see them, you cannot see the true nature of dukkha. So failure to see arising and disappearing may be that which concedes the second characteristic, the characteristics of suffering. So in regard to mental state, only when you see arising and disappearing can you see the dukkha nature of these states. So during your practice of meditation, you should try to be mindful of your thoughts. When a thought comes, pay attention to it closely, then disappear along with your attention, and it's replaced by another thought. So attention. And the mindfulness of those mental states come one after another, arising and disappearing, arising and disappearing. When you see hundreds of objects arising and disappearing in this way, you cannot avoid understanding that and oppressed by arising and disappearing. Only when you see the constant oppression caused by arising and disappearing, do you really see the dukkha nature of mental states. And only when you understand dukkha in this sense, constantly oppressed by arising and disappearing, can you understand that all five aggregates of being are suffering. All mind and matter are suffering. And then third characteristics, anatta. Anatta, non-self, does not become apparent because it is concealed by compactness. When resolution into the various elements is not given attention. So see, look at your paper, page number 5, paragraph 22. Follow me. The characteristics of non-self. Anatta does not become apparent. The characteristics of non-self. Anatta does not become apparent because it is concealed by compactness. Because it is concealed by compactness, when resolution into various elements, when resolution into the various elements is not given attention. So here again there is a notion, the notions of compactness. Kana in Pali, compactness, solid. In reality there is no compactness, but we always see things as compact. We always see things as solid things. We think that even the mind is just one solid thing. We think that it is the same as the mind a few moments ago. It is the same as the mind a few weeks ago or a month ago. Even though we have different minds, now hearing minds, then seeing minds, smelling minds, and so on, we see them as the solid things. We lump them all together as one, so these aggregates are concealed by the notions of compactness, kana in Pali. So aggregates are concealed by the notions of compactness. In reality, it is not so simplistic, uh, simplistic. When you see something, there is visible object to be seen, the eye sensitivity to see it, and the seeing consciousness. When you hear something, there is a sound wave, eardrums, and hearing consciousness. So the act of seeing, the act of hearing is composed of many different moments of small mental states. Normally, you do not think of it that way. You take it as just one thing. I see, I hear, I smell, and so on. Because you take each process to be one solid thing, you take a complex thing or process as a mass, and as long as you cannot break this mass into its components, you will always think in terms of I, a person, or an individual, man or woman, etc. And also there are different functions performed by different mental states. Seeing as an example, seeing consciousness has the functions of seeing, which is followed by other types of consciousness. They include receiving consciousness, which is the function of receiving the image of the object that has been seen. Then investigating consciousness, which is the functions of investigating the object. And a number of other mental states which arise in this sphere after fulfilling their various functions in processing that one object. But we are not able to see these mental states and process if we cannot analyze the seeing into different mental states, performing their respective function. We see only the visible objects, and I see, I hear. A person see is what we normally understand. And there is difference in this way that different types of consciousness take different objects. Seeing consciousness take visible things as object. Hearing consciousness takes sound as object. A smelling consciousness takes a smell as object, and so on. Different objects. But we just assume that it is one mind that takes these objects. And that the eye that see is also eye that hear. So we do not see that difference in the way mental state take objects. We cannot shake off the notion that it is one compact eye that see, one compact eye that hear, smell, and so on. Do you understand this explanation about anatta being concealed by compactness? In order to understand it, we need to understand the meanings of. One meaning is having no exercise of authority over it. The other meaning, the subject of this explanation is having no core. Another is that which has no inner core, no essence, and no self. As long as you take things to be compact, to be a mass, or to be just one thing, one solid thing with many functions, you cannot avoid the notion that there is a core and inherent essence or self. To understand the anatta nature of things, we need down into elements. They are different components. As long as you cannot break things into their constituent parts, but once you are able to analyze and break them into various components, the notions of compact components, the notions of compactness, and the notions of self or atta are gone. So in order to see anatta, it is very important that you break things down, you need to cut things into pieces, and you need to analyze. So you need to be aware, you need to pay attention to the objects attentively, precisely, diligently, and continuously, so that you can cut the objects clearly, you can break things into pieces, and you can analyze correctly. So we will continue tomorrow. We have to stop our discourse for today. By practicing vipassana meditation, by observing every phenomena occurring at the six senses, precisely and continuously, may all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis see the true nature of impermanence, suffering, and non-self nature. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future.